Today, I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite, more obscure Bowie songs. Now, it was kind of difficult for me to draw a line between what is obscure and what is not obscure, so some of that will be kind of arbitrary, but I'll do my best to explain my reasonings. This is not a comprehensive list. Bowie has so many amazing songs that are obscure, so I guarantee you I will not be covering everything. I'm actually not going to rank these, I'm just going to put them in order of release date, because some things don't need a ranking. Okay, first up, I want to talk about the song Cygnet Committee. It's on the 1969 album creatively titled David Bowie, which is confusing because this 1967 album was also titled David Bowie. But the 1969 album became known as Space Oddity, which is much less confusing. So, the album has a lot of songs that don't get enough recognition, and Cygnet Committee is just one. I also love Unwashed and Somewhat Slightly Dazed. Cygnet Committee specifically, though, is a great showcase of Bowie's early lyrical ability, and it's about Bowie's feelings on the counterculture movement of the late 60s. And it's great, it's not just the lyrics, it's great instrumentally too, and it has such a vibe to it. And it features Rick Wakeman from Yes, which is pretty fun. The Man Who Sold the World is just such a good album, and it opens with The Width of a Circle, which is crazy. 8 minutes of excellent guitar work, and you got Bowie on the 12-string acoustic, you got Mick Ronson on lead, and that opening guitar riff is so good. And then, right after Width of a Circle, you get All the Madmen, which, like, holy moly, this song gives off Syd Barrett vibes. And it was written about Bowie's half-brother, who was schizophrenic and committed suicide, so that's pretty intense. But the main song on this album I wanted to talk about is Savior Machine, because I don't hear anybody talk about this song, and it's an entire sci-fi plot. Like, it's just awesome. And I'm just gonna read you a description from the Bowie Bible really quick. Savior Machine is a heavy rock shuffle in 6/8 time. It tells the apocalyptic tale of a sentient computer created to bring peace to mankind, but which tires of aiding humanity and pleads to be disconnected, lest it causes death and destruction to Earth. I just love songs about crazy shit, what can I say? I could talk about a number of songs on Hunky Dory, but I'm gonna focus on the Bowie Brothers and Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol is the B-side to Changes, and it's a song about, you guessed it, Andy Warhol. The intro is pretty wacky, and then you get this really fun guitar riff. I found this song to be really catchy, and it's not super well known. I wanted to share this quote from Bowie that I find really funny. I'm not sure that there's such a thing as a fond memory of Andy Warhol. He was a strange fish. Even people who say they knew him well, I don't think they did. I certainly didn't know him well. And yeah, that pretty much sums it up. And moving on to the Bowie Brothers, this song is rather enigmatic, and there are a couple interpretations of this song. Many people say it's about his half-brother again, like in All the Madmen. Bowie himself claimed that there is no meaning to the song, and that it was written to confound Americans, to make them read into it, similar to John Lennon writing I Am the Walrus. But I don't feel entirely convinced that this song has no meaning. I think it has some sort of personal meaning to Bowie. But then again, I'm an American who reads into things, so who knows? It's a great song, and it's got a nice dark vibe to it. Alright. I'm just gonna quickly mention 2 songs on Siggy. First song I'm gonna mention is Lady Stardust, because I listened to this again recently. And I was like, wow, this has amazing piano work from Mick Ronson. And I don't know. I feel like it's not given enough credit. And the second song I'm gonna mention is Rock and Roll Suicide. Rock and Roll Suicide isn't exactly obscure. I mean, it was a single and it's somewhat well known, but I still feel like it's one of his most powerful songs and it's so lyrically potent. And I just think it needs more recognition, even if it is known somewhat. Aladdin Sane. I'm gonna start talking about piano a lot. So Lady Grinning Soul is the last track, and the thing I like about it most is the piano work by Mike Garson, who also worked with St. Vincent, who I love. Go check her out. Lady Grinning Soul is a very romantic song, and it has a very fluid piano in it, and it's just wonderful. It includes the lyric, "She'll drive the Beetle car," so that's very important too. The song Aladdin Sane also includes beautiful piano that I love. I love the piano work on this album. Well, I love the piano work in the whole discography, let's face it. Mike Garson is a great player. That's really what I'm realizing. And Time, guess what? Time is in a kind of a similar vein as Rock and Roll Suicide, because it's not like unknown, but it still needs more recognition because it's like one of the best songs in his discography, in my opinion. Diamond Dogs, what an album. Okay, most of these albums, I'm like, I could just talk about it track by track, but we can't do that. So I'll focus on the Sweet Thing Sweet, which, that's just peak musicianship. I mean, so it's Sweet Thing, Candid, and then Sweet Thing Reprise. And what intriguing lyrics, and it's got another song that has like just a very dramatic vibe. And guess what? More amazing piano work from Mike Garson. And there are obscure tracks on Diamond Dogs that are amazing, like We Are the Dead, but the Sweet Thing Sweet is like a genuine masterpiece. Sax work from Bowie is amazing too. It's some of Bowie's best work, let's face it. Alright, now I get to talk about Station to Station, which is my favorite Bowie album. I think it's been my favorite Bowie album for like 10 years. And I'm gonna talk about the title track, and it's Station to Station. Maybe it's not the most obscure Bowie song, but like it's too long to play on radio. Some people don't know it. I'm gonna talk about it because it's one of my favorite songs ever. And this was during the classic Cocaine, Milk, and Peppers era. And it's Thin White Duke persona. I love this era. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, during this time period, Bowie lived solely on cocaine, milk, and peppers. And he said he didn't remember much of recording, which, you know, like, no wonder. I mean, I wouldn't remember my own name if I was living on cocaine, milk, and peppers. Yeah, so that's why he was so thin, hence Thin White Duke. Anyway, it's his longest studio recording at 10 minutes and 14 seconds, and you got the intro with the train sounds and the slow build-up, and like, oh my god, I just love this song. It's basically prog rock. Every track on this album is absolute fire, and you got Word on a Wing also needs more recognition. Like a lot of the other tracks I'm talking about, it has excellent piano, but this time, it's not by Mark Garson, it's by Roy Bittan, who was in the E Street Band. So that was pretty interesting. Alright, Low. Very interesting and different album, and honestly, all of side 2 is unappreciated, because it's like the more avant-garde, weird, instrumentalish tracks like Warsazawa. All of those songs on side 2 kind of need more recognition, but that's too bad because I'm going to talk about a song on side 1. Always Crashing in the Same Car. And to talk about this track, we again need to talk about Bowie's good friend, cocaine. From Wikipedia, this song refers to a real-life incident in Bowie's life that occurred at the height of his cocaine addiction. Driving his Mercedes, Bowie had spotted a drug dealer on the streets who he believed had ripped him off. In retaliation, Bowie repeatedly rammed his own car into the dealer's car. Wait, what? Okay, after which he returned to his hotel and ended up driving around in circles in the hotel's underground garage. And apparently, Jasmine refers to Iggy Pop, who was supposedly in the car at the time. Don't do drugs, kids. You know, the calmness of the song kind of contrasts with the incident it refers to, doesn't it? Oh well. The song can also be taken as a metaphor for depression, and it's just, it's such a good song. Incident aside. Actually, the incident makes it better. Fun fact, apparently there were originally 3 verses planned instead of 2. In the studio, Bowie sang a 3rd verse in a quasi-Bob Dylan style, intended to be funny. However, given Bob Dylan's infamous motorcycling accident years earlier, and the subject matter, the band considered such a move to be crass, and Bowie asked for Tony Visconti to delete the verse from the recording. It's a little bit sad. I mean, I would have loved a third Bob Dylan-ish verse, but it might have felt out of place, so maybe it's for the best. Alright, moving on to Heroes. Same year as Low, 1977. This album features Robert Fripp, one of the greatest guitar players ever, known for his work with King Crimson. The album opens with Beauty and the Beast, which was apparently a single, but like I never hear anyone talk about this song, and I really like this song. It was potentially inspired by cocaine. We owe so much to cocaine. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Anyway, Bowie on piano. Love the piano in this song. Fripp on lead. Carlos Alomar on rhythm. Brian Eno on synth. And just a great song, man. I mean, come on. What a way to open the album. The second song on the album I want to talk about is The Secret Life of Arabia, which is the closer. So I've talked about the opener, now I'm talking about the closer. And it's another one, again, you're gonna hear me say this a lot, but I don't hear the song talked about ever. And it's such an amazing song, it's got such a vibe to it. I don't know, and the bass line too. The bass line is by George Murray. And no joke, this is like one of my favorite Bowie songs ever. And it gets no recognition. No recognition. Why is that? I'll never understand why some songs are radio played and others are not. I mean, understand like station to station is too long, but like a song like this is so good. And you don't hear about it. You don't hear about it, so that's one of my favorites. Alright, moving on to the third part of the Berlin trilogy, Lodger. And I'm gonna talk about African Night Flight, because it's such a different song. It's so chaotic, and there's something about it that I find addictive, almost. And the song was partly inspired by Kenyan holiday Bowie and his 6-year-old son Joe took in October 1977. Brian Eno co-wrote this track, and he played prepared piano, which is pretty cool in and of itself, and the Cricket Menace. I saw this a couple places online, and I was like, what is the Cricket Menace? I'm like Googling, I'm like, what is this? But eventually I found the answer. It is little crickety sounds that Brian produced from a combination of my drum machine and his briefcase synth, Bowie said in 2001. So yeah, crazy song, but I actually quite like it. It's super different. It's not a typical Bowie song at all. If there is a typical Bowie song, I mean, that's why they call him the Chameleon, which I guess doesn't, I don't know, that title has never really made sense to me, because Bowie has never blended in, like a chameleon blends in. Bowie has never blended in. He always has stood out. So I don't know if that's an appropriate title for him, but anyway. Alright, Scary Monsters. I have to talk about Because You're Young. I adore this song. This has always been one of my favorite songs, and again, no one talks about it. It features guitar work by Pete Townsend. Like, just such a good song. I don't know. This is another one where I'm like, why wasn't this radio played? It's just a great song. And I'm also going to talk about It's No Game. Part 1 and Part 2, they bookend the album. And it features Robert Fripp on guitar, so that automatically makes it better. Both parts have extremely different tones. I mean, Part 1, Bowie is just like screaming his guts out, and then Part 2 is super calm. And in my earlier years, I was drawn to Part 2 because I guess Part 1 was too much for me, but as I've grown older, I have grown to appreciate Part 1 much more. Alright, let's dance. Bowie pretends to be heterosexual. This album, kind of mixed feelings. I like it, and I don't. I mean, no, I like this album, of course. I like every Bowie album, but, you know, it's not as good as Scary Monsters. I'm going to talk about Criminal World, and this is a song, I had no idea this song was a cover until recently. Original was by Metro, and I've always loved Bowie's version. Apparently it was banned by the BBC due to suggestive content, and it has bisexual themes, and it was considered to be controversial. And Bowie changed some of the lyrics to be a little less gay. which I think is a shame, but I did see a take from someone who interpreted Bowie's version to be about like espionage and double meanings. So, you know, take the changed lyrics how you will. Regardless, I think the song is an absolute banger, and like the rest of the album, it features guitar work by Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, it blows my mind how many guest musicians that are just so talented that he has throughout his whole discography. I know there was some drama with Stevie Ray Vaughan. I know Stevie Ray Vaughan was upset with how Bowie treated him during these sessions, but man, if this is a great song, it's got great guitar work. I remember when I first heard about Stevie Ray playing on this album, I was like, wait, what? Like, that was like one of the most shocking things to me. And the bass work is amazing as well. I just think this is a great song. Alright, I'm gonna talk about a song that is not on a studio album. My Death, which is a cover, it's on the Ziggy Stardust motion picture album. And originally it was La Morte by, I'm just gonna show you the artist because I can't pronounce things. But yeah, Bowie changed the song up and it's so dark. I mean, not just the tone, but the lyrics, obviously. I mean, it's dark by nature. It talks about death looming over you. But I love Bowie's version. This song has always been so emotional to me. I think it's one of his best songs, honestly, even though he didn't write it. One of his best performances, maybe I should say. I think this is a song where Bowie tells the audience to shut up in the beginning, which I've always thought was just hilarious. Alright, Tonight. It was released in 1984, and Bowie himself has said that it's one of his weaker albums, and I am inclined to agree with him, but I do like some of the stuff on there. But some of them are kind of meh covers. Like, it includes I Keep Forgetting, which Ringo Starr actually does a cover of the same song, and his version, in my opinion, is a lot better than Bowie's version. Yeah, most of the songs, like I said, are either kind of meh covers, or they were written by or with Iggy Pop. And some of those Iggy songs, I actually prefer Iggy's version. However, the one song where that is not the case is Don't Look Down. Don't Look Down is a song on Iggy's New Values album from 1979, which is a good album. I mean, that's a really good album, but this particular song, I prefer Bowie's version. He makes it very reggae-ish and chill, and it's just, I really enjoy Bowie's version of this song. Loving the Alien is also quite a good song on this album, but it's one of his better known tracks on the album, so. Black Tie, White Noise. This is definitely going deep into the Bowie archives. I'm gonna talk about the title track, which I quite enjoy. And it's an unusual track for Bowie. It features I'll Be Sure on vocals, but apparently Lenny Kravitz was Bowie's first choice for the duet, which that's pretty interesting if true. Like, imagine that alternate universe. The track was inspired by Bowie's stay in Los Angeles in April 1992, when the city saw race riots in reaction to the Rodney King incident. This track is very, like, upbeat. I've always really liked this song, although it's quite different from what maybe I'm used to, maybe what other Bowie fans are used to. It's an album, I kind of have mixed feelings on this album. It's got some good stuff, but some of it is like kind of eh. But yeah, this track I've always loved. Alright, now we get to talk about one of my all-time favorite albums, Outside. This is a concept album, and the plot is really dark, including the disturbing song Wishful Beginnings, which is about murder. I should make a list of songs about murder. That should be my next video. Anyways, I love concept albums, and I love albums that are dark. And this is a concept album that is dark. And it tackles the theme of art crimes, so basically murdering for the sake of art. And each song is told from a different perspective. And I've stumbled across this nifty chart on Wikipedia that's pretty cool. It's labeled Who is Telling the Story in the Song. It's pretty cool. But this album has so many lesser known songs on it. It's like the title track, We Prick You, I've Not Been to Oxford Town. Like, that song is so catchy and I don't hear about it. Alright, Earthling. Some people maybe don't know this as much because it's a bit like electronics 90s album. That doesn't do it justice. But 7 Years in Tibet It was a single, but I don't feel it gets talked about, at least not as much as like Little Wonder or I'm Afraid of Americans. This is a song that I just think is excellent. I've always liked the lyrics too, like the opening line about the woman holding the brains in her hand, like that's crazy. Alright, now that we're getting into the later albums, it's really just like all of these are just underrated. I mean, I know it's cliche, but it's so underrated. Heathen. This is such a good album. And apparently, something I just read, apparently Bowie wanted to capture the mood of Bob Dylan's Time Out of Mind, which explains why I like this album so much, because Time Out of Mind is one of my favorite Bob Dylan albums ever. So, and yeah, this album is so good. Fun fact, it features bass work from Tony Levin, which, like, whenever he shows up, you know it's gonna be good. I've seen him in concert a few times with various acts. I've seen him with Peter Gabriel, I've seen him with Beat, I think I've seen him a couple other times too, with King Crimson proper. And more fun facts, this album also features Dave Grohl on I've Been Waiting for You, which is a cover of Neil Young from Neil Young's debut album, which I really like that song, actually. Also features Pete Townsend. He came back on Slow Burn, which, great song too. I mean, is there a bad song on this album? I don't think there is. I just love when there's crossovers in rock. Like, all these very talented musicians. I know I mentioned that already, but like, it's amazing, like, delving deep into the Bowie archives and discovering, like, this track I love has this musician I love, and I didn't realize it. Okay, I kind of want to talk about Cactus. It's a cover of the Pixies, but I really like this song. I don't know why. Bowie changed lyrics slightly, like the part D-A-V-I-D. Obviously, that's unique to his version, in case you couldn't figure that out. Sunday is a great song, too. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm supposed to just talk about one or two songs on the album, but that's not happening, because, oh my god, this is such a good album. And no one talks about it. And, like, Slip Away? Like, oh my god. Come on. Alright, we gotta go back. I gotta take things back to reality. We gotta come back to reality. Just an underrated album. It's okay, it's not my favorite Bowie album, but I still really like it. And people don't know about it. People diss on the album art, which, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But, you know, the music is actually pretty good. It was released in 2003, before a 10-year studio album hiatus that would be broken by the release of The Next Day in 2013. But my favorite track is probably Bring Me the Disco King. It's just beautiful and melancholic. And the piano from, you guessed it, Mike Garson, he's back. Yep, beautiful piano work. And I feel like you can almost go into like a trance-like state listening to this song. It's so good. And yeah, I feel like every song on this album kind of fits into the category of underappreciated, just because it's not a well-known album. And songs like, I mean, there's songs like Looking for Water or like Days. No one knows about that. Like, no one knows about those songs, and they're good songs in my opinion. Alright, next we have The Next Day, which is one of my favorite Bowie albums ever. Although I may have said that about every other album on this list, so I guess take that with a grain of salt. But anyways, it's a later album, so by default it's not as well known. And, you know, I do feel this album is better respected than Reality, but still, it needs more recognition. I mean, pretty much every track on here is gold. And I love the title track, and it's got, that's the one with the music video with Gary Oldman in it. I love Gary Oldman. Okay, anyway. Just to target two of the more obscure tracks. I'll first talk about the song Boss of Me, which I can't exactly put a finger on why I like this song so much, but it's always been one of my favorite songs on The Next Day. And, okay, maybe it doesn't have mind-blowing lyrics, but, you know, a song is about how it makes you feel. And this song makes me feel good. So I guess that's what it comes down to. That's why I like it. It also features Tony Levin on the Chapman stick, so maybe that's part of it. And I also want to talk about Heat, This is the album closer, and it's slow, and it's dramatic, and it's kind of scary, but the song has really grown on me in recent times, and I find myself listening to it a lot. And it's an interestingly dark and dramatic song to close on, and I wanted to share this quote from Tony Visconti. It could be about prison, loneliness, and sociopathic detachment. The lyrics are so bleak, I asked him what he was talking about. Oh, it's not about me, he said. None of these songs are. He's an observer. That was a really interesting quote. Alright, we move on to Bowie's final album, Black Star. And I'm gonna talk about Dollar Days. This song is without a doubt one of my favorites on Black Star, one of my favorites in the whole catalog. It's just beautiful and it's so emotional. It's got the amazing sax solo, it's got the piano in the background, it's got the epic heavy guitar, and it just feels so dramatic and sad and wonderful. And the lyrics are probably Bowie directly addressing us, the fans, on the eve of his death, which just makes it all the more emotional. I remember when this album came out. I was in high school when this album came out. And, I had no idea. None of us did. None of us knew Bowie was on the brink of death. I was just excited to have a new Bowie album. And then, shortly after when he died, it was just wow. Wow. What an album and what a song. Thanks for watching, and I want to hear all of your Bowie opinions. Tell me your favorite Bowie song in the comments. Any obscure Bowie songs I didn't mention, God knows that there are many. Because, is there a bad Bowie song? You know what? If there's a bad Bowie song, tell me about it, because I want to hear all of your opinions. Thanks.